Hey, it's Josie with Affirmation Pod, your home for self-care and reflection. I hope as you're listening to this, you are putting energy into staying mentally fit, mentally healthy, and mentally strong. Welcome to new listeners. Welcome back to returning listeners. I'm so happy and excited you're here. We are in the middle of a series on anxiety. Last week, we had Dennis Simsek, the anxiety guy, on. This week, we have Gina Ryan from the Anxiety Coaches podcast on. She's going to share with you her journey, as well as some affirmations that you can use when you're experiencing some stress, anxiety. So here she is, Gina Ryan from the Anxiety Coaches podcast.
Aloha, Josie and listeners. I'm Gina Ryan, and I am with the Anxiety Coaches podcast. Our website is theanxietycoachespodcast.com, and you can find our show on iTunes or Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and any of the podcast apps that are out there. Again, that's Anxiety Coaches Podcast. And we have a new episode every Sunday morning and every Wednesday afternoon. So 2 new shows every week. I think currently we're up to about 285, 88, something like that, episodes. So please check them out if you're struggling with any kind of anxiety, high stress, panic, any of the above. And that's what we talk about. I talk about stress and anxiety as the whole umbrella. Obviously, it would include ADHD, agoraphobia, phobias, all kinds of different ways that high stress and anxiety can manifest, including physical things. It's amazing what high stress and anxiety can come out as. So it's important to know that you're not alone with some of these things you might be struggling with. And I help the listeners find their way back to their own intrinsic peace and calm. Peace and calm is our default. It's just that we haven't been living that way for quite a while, many of us. And so we need a little help sometimes to get back there and to remember our true nature. I'm a nutritionist and a wellness consultant and have been for the past 24 years. And I also overcame and cleared my own challenges with stress, anxiety, and panic. About 17 years ago, I was really sure that I had cleared my anxiety, panic, and have not gone down what I call the wormhole since then. I've struggled with many challenges since then, obviously. And actually, some of my greatest challenges that I've had in my life have been since then. And even though they're very stressful and challenging, I have not had anxiety, panic through any of that. And that is because once you know, once you have brought to consciousness what it is, who you are, and how you can handle life, and that you know you can, you don't have to suffer that anymore. It's old patterns. It's a lot of habitual kinds of thinking and fear that keeps us stuck in that mode. And once you clear it, you don't have to be afraid anymore because you can handle everything that life puts in front of you. So I now coach others the transformative power of living an authentic and integrative life, because that's how I found my way out. As I said, I was a nutritionist and a wellness consultant, so I had a lot of information at my fingertips. Later, as I was before I cleared my anxiety, panic, but I still had to bring in more. There had to be that wholeness of mind, body, and spirit to pull it all together. It wasn't just about healing my body. It wasn't just about healing my mind. But the spiritual piece of that is the integration of those two things together. So it's amazing what we can do when we're pushed and have to find our way. Because, as you can tell from the numbers that I talked about, my anxiety panic came when it was quite a while ago. So it was in the early 70s And I found myself with panic attacks at about age 18. And I struggled off and on with those for over 20 years and not really knowing early on what was, quote, wrong with me. I just felt so off. And it was like I said, it was in the 70s, and anxiety wasn't a topic. People didn't talk about the fear of fear or being anxious. People would say they were nervous or high strung, but it was something in passing. It wasn't a focus. And people didn't go to therapy in those days either. I grew up in a blue collar neighborhood, and people I knew, nobody went to therapy. That seemed like something for perhaps the rich and famous, but it wasn't something even your physician would suggest. And physicians only wanted to help by giving sleeping pills, hoping that maybe some rest or deeper sleep would be helpful. Not really a lot of direction. So having a heart and a real interest in natural and kind of offbeat ways, I continued to go on without any medication or any real help, but I did keep searching. I was like an investigator, because you have to know, if this started in the 70s, there was no internet. We didn't have computers or anything. Couldn't even think of such a things back then. So I didn't even know what was the source of this unease. So one night on late night television, there was an infomercial. Well, that's kind of wild. It was a late at night, and at that time, my husband at that time was gone on a business trip, and the kids were asleep and in bed, and I'm watching late night TV, and there's an infomercial, and there it is. They were describing me. Every single thing this woman talked about with her 6 cassette tape series was about me. She was describing me to a T, and she called it anxiety. So I didn't buy that tape series. I was just so in awe that there was a name for it, and I continued my search, and I figured out the role eventually of the mind, the body, and the spirit, like I said, in my distress. And I was able to eventually string together one anxiety-free day after another, until I couldn't even remember the last time I had the feelings of anxiety panic. And that was over 17 years ago. And I've been coaching others to do the same ever since. I spent 12 years of working one-on-one with women and men with eating disorders, and their angst led me to understand the deep yearning that people have for finding their peace and calm again. It is such a root of so many feelings of distress in people's lives. So I would take my stressed self. You asked us, Josie, you asked us to say how we would talk to our own stressed self. So here's what I would say, because I don't really suffer with anxiety anymore. Do I have anxious moments? Absolutely. Do I feel sadness and grief, joy and struggle? Yes, all of the above. But I don't have what I call anxiety panic anymore. I don't go down the wormhole anymore, even with the big challenges that life has thrown my way. So if I were highly stressed, I would say to myself, sweetheart, take a breath. Let go of the desire to figure it all out at once. You've had these feelings before, and you know that it will all pass if you let it keep moving. So feel it, see it, and let it keep moving. Do what you can do today, and let the rest be. You know you can always handle whatever comes up right in front of you. So why fuss with those imaginary what ifs? They're not real. They are simply thoughts right now. And thoughts come and thoughts go. Be grateful just for the moment. Be grateful for the very moment of life that you are in right now. And trust again that you can take care of all that needs to be dealt with in good time. Just follow your breath for a few more times and let it be. You know you've got this. Josie, thank you so much for letting me visit with you and your lovely listeners. And if I can be of service to anyone or you, please be in touch. It's easy enough to find me. Go to anxietycoachespodcast.com. Thank you, Josie. You're such a lovely, lovely woman, and I'm so honored to be able to spend a few moments here with you and your listeners. Aloha.
And that is Gina's gift for you today. Thank you again to Gina for taking the time to share this with the Affirmation Pod community. A lot of you have downloaded my Progressive Relaxation for Sleep episode, which was episode 108. And so I want to mention that for the price of your email address, Gina does give a body scan meditation that is similar. So feel free to check that out. If you want to connect with her, please go to affirmationpod.com/Gina. That's affirmationpod.com/GINA. And if you do connect with Gina, let her know you heard about her through Affirmation Pod. You can tell her Josie says aloha. Now, if you meant to check out Dennis's stuff from the last episode, go to affirmationpod.com/Dennis, affirmationpod.com/Dennis. But if you want to hear more from Gina, affirmationpod.com/Gina. Now go be you, know you, and love you. This is Josie with Affirmation Pod. Bye for now.
This has been a Calm Clear Now Network production. Executive producer Shel Hamilton. To discover more meditation, visualization, and affirmation podcasts like this one, visit calmclearnow.com.